Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So we've been talking about the Koch brothers. They have the second largest privately held company in the United States. That is Koch Industries, second only to Cargill Grain. And they are the richest people in this country other than Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. And that's why they want the Bush tax cuts to continue to apply to people earning more than chicken feed, more than $250,000. So that's the Koch brothers, exposed in this very interesting article in the New Yorker by Jane Meyer, and that's really worth reading to understand what actually goes on and the ham-handedness and heavy-handedness of their interventions. They've got, they're known as, the billionaires who stir the pot on so much in terms of the acrimony in U.S. politics. It used to be the Olin Foundation. Mellon Scaife, of course, was very big in Clinton Gate. You've got others who don't do this, right? Go back to the 1950s. It's the Volcker Fund, and even in the 40s, that pays for von Hayek and Friedman to go to the meeting of the Mount Pelerin Society in Vevey, Switzerland. You get the idea. So the Tea Party, Engel, O'Donnell, Miller, Scott, Buck, the rest of them. The sinews of war for them come from these people. Now, some people don't need it. Meg Whitman can be, she can affect a slightly more moderate tone because she's spending $120 million of her own funds. And notice also that after the Citizens United case with the reactionary majority of the Rats Cabal, right, Roberts, Alito, Thomas, and Scalia plus Kennedy, that it's now possible for corporations to pour as much as they want into these candidacies, overturning 1 century of settled law, right? Stare decisis went out the window. Different companies have a strong anti-regulation mentality. E-Trade would be one. FedEx would be another. Liberty Media, and so forth. Then the relevant foundations, right? The Olin Foundation, the Scaife Foundation, the Ford Foundation turns out to be interested in these causes. Oh, Altria, that would be Philip Morris, American Petroleum Institute, Big Oil, Comcast, Microsoft, all playing both sides of the table, right? Like, in effect, Soros. So when Soros meets David Koch, what do they say about their respective populations of dupes? I think this is what you should think about. And then go to my website, take a look at the 5-point program, because this ultimately tells you which end is up. The directions on the compass are incomprehensible in this cloud of ideology unless you know what to do. So let's just talk about program a little bit now. We've had this thing this week where the reactionaries say, not only do 44% of Americans are they not associated with a household that benefits from entitlement spending, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid in some form, but you've probably got 1/6 of the U.S. population now in the Depression that depends on things that are not quite entitlements, but they're sort of emergency programs, unemployment insurance, food stamps, and a few things along these lines. Now, what's the scandal? The reactionaries say the scandal is that they're getting the payments. The scandal is that these poor people are needy people, unemployed, destitute maybe, are getting the payments. I say no. The scandal is that they need them. The scandal is that we've got a depression and people need these modest, very limited, minimal payments. They need that to survive. And, of course, the reactionary says, let's strip them of the economic rights that they have and we'll leave them destitute. Then they'll have to fend for themselves and they'll survive somehow. Notice the psychological aspect of this is the Austrian school is often known as the psychological school. It's all subjective. In other words, economic behavior is purely a matter of your own head. And let me now point to the reactionary program of the entire wing, this wing of the ruling class. Here we have the Wall Street Journal of Thursday, September 16th. Principles for Economic Revival, written by George P. Shultz. Okay, right off there. Factional leader of the right-wing faction of the U.S. ruling class. Former Secretary of Labor, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, fellow at the Stanford University Hoover Institution, and boy, he's loyal to the heritage of Herbert Hoover. We've also got Michael J. Boskin, the faker who cooked the cost of living escalator back under the Mad Dog Bush regime and under Clinton. John F. Kogan, Alan Meltzer, John B. Taylor. A couple of these people also have interesting backgrounds. Taylor was Undersecretary of the Treasury under Bush the Younger. Kogan was the Deputy Director of OMB under Reagan. And we have, as I mentioned, this awful Boskin was the chairman of the economic advisors under Bush the Elder. Now, here's the idea. They show you this graph, right? The cost of Washington. Our prosperity has faded because we've moved away from our good policies, which were we're spending too much. Now, I don't remember that. You know, in 2007, 2008, the crisis had nothing to do with the federal deficit. The federal deficit has gone up as a result of the banking panic and the derivatives panic. The crisis was not caused by a government deficit. It's the bailout of Wall Street and the picking up the pieces, right, absorbing all these expenditures in the wake of a financial panic created by the derivatives mongers, the hedge fund hyenas, the asset strippers. That's how come you've got some pressure on the public finances. But no, these guys try to say this is the reason, right, that the government spends too much. Tax rates are too high. And they come with a whole bunch of hokum about this. They want to have long-lasting policies. Anyway, let's cut through their stupid analysis, which is just pathetic. What do they want to do? Number one, take tax increases off the table. Naturally, the Koch brothers don't want to be taxed on their fabulous wealth. Secondly, balance the federal budget by reducing spending. Balance the budget. Herbert Hoover, deflation, Heinrich Brüning, sure to open the door to a right-wing fascist movement of mass character, which is probably what these guys want. Third, modify Social Security and health care entitlements to reduce their explosive future growth. Oh, strip people of their economic rights. There's the Tea Party right there. The Tea Party is campaigning on George Shultz's ruling class Wall Street program because they want to make sure they have plenty of money for bailouts in the future. Increase copays. Higher copays are good. The 2010 bill is bad. That's got to be removed. It's not reactionary enough. You've got to shut down Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. That means you won't be having a house. And you've got to have an international alliance against inflation. There's no idea of creating jobs. The word derivatives is not mentioned. And the whole problem, of course, is that the crisis is caused by deregulation. The coming of derivatives, purely deregulation, because they were banned. Glass-Steagall removed, deregulation. Interstate banking, deregulation. Privatization, you know, like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they were privatized. So this is radically anti-historical. It's a tissue of lies. But here it is, Wall Street Journal, Thursday, September 16th, Principles for Economic Revival, George P. Shultz, Boskin, and others. That is the Tea Party marching orders coming from the people who own them. So, again, the only reason this stuff can work is because of Obama. As long as Obama is there, then you're going to have trouble. Anyway, a college has gone bankrupt. Dana College in Nebraska is gone. This is now the implementation of that part of the program. You won't have a house. You won't have a college education. And we've got the program. The immiseration of the American people goes to a new level if you can convince them to cut their own throats by voting for these scurrilous candidates. And we'll be back next week on World Crisis Radio.